Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at a book which is very important for many people. It's an area of law that crops up more frequently than one would think. It's on limitation periods. The book is in a 9th edition written by Andrew McGee, and it comes to us from Sweet and Maxwell Thomson REUTERS. I'm very grateful to Sweet and Maxwell for continuing to publish such important books for us because you make our lives so much easier. Now, I've given it a title, When Time is the Limit. Note this definitive work of reference on limitation periods, out now in the new 9th edition. Let's have a look at the book first of all. It's a standard hardback. It's part of the Litigation Library. There's the book, the front and the side. There's nothing on the back. It's actually quite light for one of these Sweet and Maxwell books. You can see at the back that the index is by paragraph numbering, not by pages, paragraph numbering. It's nearly 600 pages long, the book itself. The index isn't particularly big, but there's a legal, what they call a legal taxonomy, which explains how you can find things quite quickly. If we go to the front of the book, let me just show the front page first of all. There's that one there. This is Litigation Library at the top. Then you've got the basic information there. Andrew McGee's name, all his qualifications. Emeritus Professor of Law at Manchester University. The first edition came out in 1990, so it's quite old now. That's a dedication. We don't review books that we don't like. So therefore, this book is one that we thought was very important. Do read the preface so you've got some idea of where we're going with this particular subject. Then you've got the index, which is reasonably easy to navigate. It is all paragraph numbering, and obviously the chapter is actually the beginning of the paragraph itself to find, so you shouldn't have any difficulty getting around. A lot of cases, of course, as usual. There is actually, after the cases, of which there are a large number, just to stop for a second, you've then got the table of statutes. You're talking of an extra 100 pages here, in fact, in total. But the statutes, of which, of course, the Limitation Act itself of 1980 is clearly very well set out. Huge amount of information there. And then after that, you've got the statutory instruments, of course. And then the civil procedurals, helpful, I think, if you're in practice and you have a problem, as I've had with one or two of these types of case. Then you have the basic structure. You see the paragraph numbering at the side there. You've got the footnotes, extensive footnotes throughout, just going into the middle again. You see the paragraph numbering and the footnotes throughout. All in all, an important book where the law is stated. Now, what do we say about the book in short terms? We say this: while time is infinite, human life isn't. It's not surprising, therefore, that the concept of limitation periods, the title of this long-established legal text, has evolved, and of course it's been evolving for a long time when one thinks of the history of the legislation, the various limitation acts of the past. Neither is it surprising then that the concept of time limitation looms large across virtually all areas of law, because there has to be finality of proceedings. Now, I say that because I've come up against really serious problems in the court service about not recognising sometimes that finality is important, because you have to draw a line somewhere, and the problem is that in some cases the line is a really difficult one for a lot of good reasons sometimes, but that's the way it is. This then is a subject that is a wide-ranging yet specific one, simple yet in any number of cases bewilderingly complex, and frankly it's used as a device in my submission by many people to try to wriggle out of something, which is unfortunate, but that's part of the problem of the law. And it's safe to say, I think then, that the lawyers everywhere who know about this subject will welcome the new 9th edition of Limitation Periods by Andrew McGee. Its long publishing history of some 32 years now is ample testament to its authority and reliability, as it covers in both breadth and depth the intricacies of what is an important subject, which of course invariably impacts on all areas of law, because it will stop the proceedings if you're not careful and you know how to sort a problem out. There are going to be a lot of difficulties in the future because of the huge number of delays caused by COVID primarily, which has led to a lot of difficulties with the hearing of cases. But I do say that some applications to the court will, I think, fall on sympathetic ears because of what has happened. Now, the law of limitation, says the author McGee, may be divided into three questions, namely 1, when does the time start to run? Key question. 2, how long is the limitation period? Because it changes. And 3, what happens when the time expires? Again, that's the process problem. Depending on the nature of the case, then, the answers to questions such as these can be astoundingly complex, unfortunately. Hence the necessity for the practitioner to run off and order this book from Sweet and Maxwell. And I'm glad that they're producing these books because they do make our lives a lot easier. As the author explains, the basis of the cause of action in a particular case is that time may start to run out at different points in different types of actions. Complicated? Yes, very. But if you're a practitioner, with this book to hand, that which was previously obscure should ultimately become clear. And actually it will be a finding of fact quite often as to when the time will run. And it will be a matter for the judge. And I think if you work on that basis, you'll then see where it might be. There may be agreement, of course, between the parties, but I think that's the basis of it. The book's divided into 28 chapters, covering such subject areas as, for example, personal injury and defamation, personal property, real property, arbitration, pleading questions, procedural delays, a big one, fault, concealment and mistake, another big set of areas, and much more, including, at the end, for all you lovers of European matters, a chapter on European law. The author points out, in effect, that the definition of a limitation period is to a degree flexible. Although for present purposes, he says, a limitation period is construed as including any provision which specifies a time limit within which legal proceedings of a particular kind may be brought, within which notice of a claim or dispute must be given to the other party. Of course, earlier texts apparently have arrived at a slightly different definition, but we are 2022, 2023, right on the cusp of the year. But in essence, the author states that a book aimed at the busy practitioner needs to consider any possible statutory time limit. And I think that's an important basic rule to follow. Of course, let me conclude by saying that the point is made that current concepts of time limitation will inevitably change with time. As old difficulties are removed, new ones replace them, often in response to social or technological change, especially with what we're having at the moment with Zoom, and with the internet. For example, initiating the most spectacular change of all has been Zoom during COVID. That has changed the face of a lot of what we do. And I think it's been a very positive step in many cases. The only problem is you haven't got the personal touch. But if you know the parties because you've had some attendance in person cases with them, you can then, with some of the other bits and pieces, have Zoom, and that does work very well. Another example, of course, is land registration, which pushes that old conveyancing law further into the background to be replaced by new rules. And about time too. We're almost 100 years celebrating the Law of Property Act 1925, and frankly, it needs to catch up quickly, but that's for another day. For the busy practitioner, this new 9th edition of Limitation Periods from Sweet and Maxwell will certainly present an erudite, helpfully detailed and a meticulous approach to this challenging and continually evolving area of law. And the law is stated as of the 1st of March 2022, and the 9th edition was published in late 2022. Let's just have a look at it again. It's the Litigation Library. You can see the spine there. Opening it up in the middle, we're looking at the law of defamation. Here we go. Paragraph numbering again on the sides, the footnoting. You can see this is about extensions of time in defamation cases. And remember one thing, and it's a passing comment at the end. The common law, before we had a lot of statute law, we had the cases. The common law was actually quite wise in saying, well, we can only go so far, and then you've got to say enough's enough. Because otherwise people will come, if they've got a lot of money, they will come back again and again. And that actually does not help the law, it doesn't help justice, and in fact, it's not fair. And on that basis, Can I thank Andrew McGee and all the people involved very much for an excellent book. It's well worth having in your personal library. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.